day 4 of our lifestyle declutter. Whether you are on day 1 and that's all you've completed, or you've watched through all the videos and you have successfully completed every single day, or maybe you've listened to some of the videos but you haven't quite found space and time in your life to fit these practices in, I just want us to take a moment and celebrate you. There are so many other ways that we are showing up for ourselves or showing up in the lives of the people we share our life with, and that is something worth celebrating. I think that is one of the things that we don't do enough as adults, is actually celebrate all of the things that we are doing on a daily basis, and that's going to be another video for another day. But today we're going to be celebrating things like getting out of bed. Maybe you took your kids to school, you showed up to work, decluttered that drawer, started taking some mental inventory, or did the workout, cleared some of that digital clutter. Some of you might be taking care of sick children this week, or maybe you called a friend and had a good catch-up session. Hopefully we've all been hydrating our bodies. Whatever you have been doing to be an active participant in your life, celebrate that. And don't skip this part. It is a very important habit and rhythm to establish in our lifestyles, because we all struggle with negative thoughts, including me. It is part of human cognition. Our brain's tendency to focus on threats to ensure survival, but the reality is we have so many luxuries around us that for the most part are keeping us safe and protected, and we're doing things every single day that we often do not give ourselves credit for because of that tendency to be in fight or flight or survival mode in our brain. But when we take time to celebrate the tiniest of things, there was a season of my life I literally had to start celebrating sitting up in bed in the morning. My physical health was so low that was hard. It was hard to just get out of bed in the morning, but it became easier once I celebrated the fact that I sat up in bed instead of beating myself up for not wanting to get out of bed, which is also a very natural part of our human condition. When we are in a nice cozy bed and we have a full to-do list ahead of us, whose brain wouldn't want to tell them to just stay in bed so it doesn't have to work as hard? So celebrating even the tiniest of things can create a better experience throughout our lives. And even though our brain for generations has been wired for survival, most of us are not having to encompass that level of survival every single day. It is a wonderful aspect of our brain and our nervous system so that it can help warn us of potential threats. But sometimes we get caught in traps where we are hyper-focusing and constantly in a negative space that really affects our emotional experience that we have here in life. But the nice thing is we can do emotional declutters and create new communication channels to our nervous system that will greatly enhance our ability to navigate these thoughts and create a better mental and emotional environment for ourselves. And an easy way to start doing that is to celebrate ourselves. Celebrate all the little things that we do every single day instead of beating ourselves up, feeling like we're never doing enough. So literally go us for making it this far in life, making it through all the things we've had to navigate through, and still showing up. Did you know that on average, we have about 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day, and about 80% of them can tend to be negative? We often don't realize that these persistent negative thoughts contribute to things like anxiety, depression, low self-esteem. They can create cycles of rumination where the mind plays negative events over and over and over again, which can lead to complete emotional exhaustion. And did you know that our negative thoughts can even affect our physical health? They can literally disrupt our emotional harmony, increasing cortisol, which is known to be the stress hormone, which can lead to things like high blood pressure, weakened immune responses, and sleep disturbances. And we all know how good sleep is for our bodies. I don't know about you, but I have definitely spent evenings or mornings in bed where thoughts are just coming to attack. And at the time, I had no idea how to clean up those thoughts so I could have better sleep. And I also did not realize that down the road, that was gonna lead me to negative health experiences. Our negative thoughts can even affect our actions and our outcomes in life. For example, if you think that you are going to fail at something, it often causes us to underperform due to the lack of confidence. So we're setting ourselves up for failure so often, and it all starts up here. Fearing the future can lead us to not living in the present and not making plans and taking action to create our current reality and our future reality. Even hyper-focusing on health struggles communicates more aggressively to our nervous system and our hormones that we are unwell and can weaken our immune system. And we tend to do this instead of focusing on the lifestyle habits that we could be creating to bring greater health and greater support to our immune system and our nervous system and our hormone balance and harmony, which can lead to greater well-being in our own lives. I had an acupuncturist once tell me as I was going in for all of these nerve issues that I was having, he was like, you need to work on your emotions. And I was like, I have been working on my emotions. I have been setting boundaries and I have been overcoming my chronic people pleasing and I have been getting out of negativity traps. And yet I didn't realize, because I was so used to being in that environment, in my body, in my mind, that I still had work to do. And these doctors and this acupuncturist's advice to heart, and I really started evaluating my lifestyle and what I needed to declutter and make space for to bring more health, more well-being, and more emotional balance into my life. And it has changed my life. Not only has it changed the experience I have in my own mind, it's changed the experience I have in my body's health, my hormonal balance, my nervous system balance. Doing this reset declutter work is life-changing if you decide to take the journey. That decision all starts in your mind. So if you haven't guessed yet, today we're going to be focusing on emotional decluttering, and specifically how our thoughts are affecting our emotions and what we can do about it. If you find yourself often struggling through negative thoughts or really heavy, complex emotions, here's the good news. Our brains can be rewired, and our brains are what communicate to our bodies the emotional responses that we end up having. True story, the brain, mine, yours, all of ours, are neuroplastic. And neuroplasticity allows the brain to form new pathways and patterns of behaviors and thought processes. We can create these new pathways through positive thinking, gratitude, and mindfulness practices. With effort, you can literally shift from negative thought storms to more constructive ones. I find that so exciting, because for a long time, I thought because this had happened or because I wasn't given these emotional tools through my upbringing or whatever it is, I'm always gonna be stuck this way. My brain is always gonna work this way. But that is just simply not the case. Have you ever noticed that after spending time with consistently negative people, the influence that it has on your own thoughts and mood? Or in contrast, have you ever been around just really positive, optimistic, dreamer, doer type of people, and how it can feel uplifting and inspiring and motivating? Now, if you are trapped in negative thoughts or even were raised in an environment where there was a lot of negativity and this has been a consistent pathway that your brain has been operating in, it can actually be somewhat triggering to be around really positive people. The term misery loves company really rings true in these moments, that being around something that feels so different from the environment that you have been existing in creates a lot of friction between those two realities. And it can kind of feel uncomfortable. Or maybe you get a little annoyed at people like that. Or you instantly are having these inner conversations about how, well, that's good for them, but that's never going to be my reality. However, the more we spend time around positive people and in positive environments, our brain starts to adapt. We begin to feel more comfortable, more optimistic, more joyful. We start to think, well, if they can do it, I could do it too. How would I like to be living in my life? And what are the things that I have control over? And what can I do to create a different reality for myself? We started taking inventory of our mental clutter, and this is the first step to creating new neural pathways of healthier, more empowering, optimistic thinking, and creating stronger emotional agility and more emotional harmony. This will start allowing our nervous system to be at ease. It can get us out of fight or flight, and then our nervous system, our hormones, our brain start playing like a symphony instead of a train wreck. So the negative thought funnel is a concept that one of my hair clients taught me, and it really changed the game. At the time she learned it, she was a principal, she was a mom of many children, she was active in her church callings and roles, and she really started to feel the pressure of keeping up all of those roles in life. The weight of life started resting really heavy on her shoulders and on her mind, to the point where she was struggling to get out of bed in the morning and contemplating if she could even really handle all that she was doing. She was just feeling really emotionally burnt out. How many of us have been there? But she found a therapist to help her work through it and went on to years later retire from her position as a principal. She raised her whole family through that season of life. She stayed active in her church role and for the most part lived a really joyful life. I had asked her, what were some of the things that your therapist taught you that you found the most beneficial? And she told me about the negative thought funnel and that she still uses it to this day. I'm a visual learner. I just find that it helps me make sense of things when I can see it in my mind or in front of me. And especially in the seasons where there's just a lot of emotional clutter, it's so nice to have a visual reminder of things. So here is our negative thought funnel. What the negative thought funnel is this reality that our brain is like a funnel and everything that gets poured into it has to go somewhere. To recognize when we are in patterns of negative thought as quickly as possible and walk the other direction, because otherwise we walk on this edge all day long. And the moment we step into that negative thought funnel, it is so hard not to spiral down and fall right into this dark hole that then the walls feel smaller, the possibilities in life feel smaller. Our whole reality becomes this little tiny space that feels really dark, and looking up from the inside feels impossible to find our way back out. So important to practice mental and emotional hygiene and recognize the negative thoughts that create a emotional storm within us, so that we don't end up in this tornadic-like emotional experience spiraling into this thought funnel and getting trapped. Because once we're down at the bottom, it can feel so difficult to get ourselves back out, but it is not as difficult as we think when we start practicing mental and emotional hygiene. And a great way to do that is to recognize. We have to take inventory, not just today, but throughout our whole lives. Each day, each week, each month, each year, we go through a lot. And so we need to stop and take inventory. What is on my mind? What are my thoughts telling me? What are the emotional experiences I'm having because of the thoughts and the experiences that I've had in life? And am I slipping into this negative thought spiral where it feels like my whole future, my whole reality just needs to change, or I'm never going to be happy again, or I'm always going to be overwhelmed at work, or I'm always going to struggle with these insecurities or these limitations, or because this happened to me, it's taken away all my potential possibilities for joy and progress in life. There are so many things that these thoughts will just spiral us into, and that has a drastic effect on our emotions because our nervous system is constantly sending little messages to our hormones, and our hormones are constantly sending messages to our brain, and those two communication channels play a massive role in our emotions. So as we take inventory of what's going on in our mind and inventory of the emotions we're experiencing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, keep in mind the negative thought funnel, and we're going to start tracking the negative thoughts we're having and recognizing that we're having them before we slide all the way down the thought funnel and get trapped at the bottom. And this is not to minimize anything that you have ever gone through. It is so important to honor the emotions that we have and let them move through us. This is not turning into robots and numbing ourselves from having any emotions. It's allowing ourselves to feel, process, investigate these emotions, let them serve their time, and then be able to release them, because our thoughts aren't trapped in this spiral and this tornadic tunnel that is creating an emotional storm within us. And I am a firm believer that everyone has a healthy side and an unhealthy side. And my healthy side and unhealthy side used to battle each other all the time, and they still sometimes do. But ultimately, it is up to us to choose which side of us we feed. So our challenge today is to recognize the negative thoughts that you're having and then take inventory of the emotions you're sifting through. Bitterness, anger, resentment, jealousy, fear, envy, annoyance, low self-esteem and self-worth, sadness, guilt, shame, anxiety, loneliness, hopelessness, or frustration. Identifying these emotions helps give us clarity and control. What am I feeling right now? What triggered this emotion? Are these thoughts true? Are they a narrative that I've been writing? Did this happen, and have I already been living through these emotions over and over, and I'm ready to release this experience so that I can create a better environment in my own body and mind and in the world around me? I'm upset could mean I feel lonely because I feel like no one understands me. But if we think about it on a larger scale, someone out there understands you. They might not have lived the exact same life that you lived, but everything any of us have ever experienced in life, someone has experienced something similar. And so while you may not have people in your inner circle who can fully understand what you're going through, there are people out there that do understand and that are navigating the same emotions and the same feelings and the same thoughts as you are. And sometimes thinking on a bigger scale can help us not feel so alone on our journey. They're judging me, or I'm awkward, or whatever it is. And when we really stop to think about it, is that reality, or is it just a narrative that we're writing? We might feel that way about ourselves. We might have been telling ourselves that I always fail. You don't always fail. You're here right now. You've gone through things that you did not fail at every single thing you've ever done in life. So instead of saying I've always failed, we might say I'm struggling right now, but I have succeeded before. It can be crucial to separate our thoughts from facts. And our brain, if it's used to thinking these negative thoughts, and we have been telling ourselves these things over and over and over and over again, our brain might try to convince us that they are facts. But could you prove it? I used to think that I was so socially awkward. I would feel anxious in so many situations. And it took years for me to actually recognize all the people that I have in my life, all the times I'm in social settings. No one ever is looking at me telling me how awkward I am. It was all narratives that I was writing in my own head. And even if we are awkward sometimes, who's not? We're human. That's part of life's journey. But instead of recognizing all of the people or the relationships that I had in my life, I was in my head thinking about my own insecurities, assuming that these other people were thinking the things that I actually was just telling myself. Sometimes we can go through some really painful, hurtful experiences on behalf of someone else. It's not just thoughts that we've created in our own mind. And often our mind will replay those experiences over and over, wondering why. Why did this have to happen? Why did it have to happen to me? And I remember watching a documentary once about a man who was a detective with serial killers. And he said that he used to constantly be like, I gotta figure out their brain. If I can figure out their brain and why they do these things, I can somehow make this world a better place. And one day he was doing an interview and he said it just hit him that he's never going to be able to understand how and why people do certain things in life because his brain doesn't think this way. And so often we'll rewrite and wonder why this happened to me or why this person did this. And the reality is, when terrible things happen to us, it's because very broken people did something to us that can't be made sense of. So instead of constantly writing these narratives and trying to solve these whys, we can learn to free ourselves from those experiences and realize this is something that I will never understand, but I can heal and love myself through this. I can overcome constantly letting these experiences take space in my mind. And that doesn't mean, this could be like loss of a loved one. It doesn't mean that you have to forget the experience or forget this person. You can reframe and start to learn that when you think about them, you think of all the positive things and all the joy they brought to your life and how much life they lived while they were here. And sometimes we can be in a situation where we really, really want someone else's experience in life to thrive, and their choices or their choices of people that they're spending their time with can really get caught up in our head, and we can think about it and ruminate about it. And as a hairstylist, I definitely saw this happening in a lot of people's lives, especially with grown children. We can care so much about someone and just want rainbows and sunshine for them for the rest of their lives. But when we're thinking thoughts consistently on behalf of someone else that we have little control over, we have little control over their lives, we have little control, if any, over their actions, how they're spending their time, we are taking up so much mental energy and creating a lot of emotional discomfort in our own lives while we're out trying to think through all the problems and narrate what other people need or how we can help intervene in their lives. I could definitely tell a difference as a hairstylist, especially when I started doing this work. I could feel a difference in my body after I had spent time on a client who was positive, optimistic, practiced mental and emotional hygiene skills in their own life, versus someone who was just really, really stuck and trapped in that negative spiral and tunnel that we can find ourselves in life. My physical body could feel a difference. It wasn't just a mental thing. My body could feel a difference. And sometimes I would come home at the end of a long day and my husband would be like, "What happened to you today?" And I would look like shriveled up, like I had aged 30 years, and my body would feel it. I would be so emotionally, mentally, physically drained. And that's no judgment to where anyone is in their own life, because I have certainly been that person. I have been the person that has been stuck in absolute negative doomsday thought thinking, and it is a hard trap to even recognize and then a hard trap to climb out of, but it is possible. There is hope. You can recover. And the first step is really paying attention to the thoughts we're having, paying attention to how often they're negative, and then really thinking about that thought funnel and recognizing, ooh, I'm having negative thoughts. Nope, I'm not gonna step into that thought tunnel. I'm not gonna even step close to the edge. We can practice mental hygiene tools like mindfulness, gratitude, meditation, rewriting narratives, working on our own self-worth, journaling it out, maybe booking a coaching session or a therapy session if you're particularly stuck on something or just feeling the pressure and not sure how to climb out on your own. There are people who are trained professionals that can help you work through that. There are people who have done it themselves and can help you work. So just getting to the point where we're recognizing when we're walking on that edge of that negative thought funnel and making sure that we're so mindful to not step in. We can get to the point where we can really recognize, like, oh, I've started to step in. I'm not gonna get past that ledge. I'm gonna climb my way back out. I'm gonna reroute my thoughts so that I can have a better emotional experience in my own body, and that I am not constantly outsourcing my energy, because the reality is negative thoughts create negative energy and positive thoughts create positive energy. And that energy exudes from us, and positivity attracts positivity, and negativity can attract negativity. And we don't want this in our lives. We want to put ourselves in an environment internally and externally where we can cultivate the most positive experience, because the storms are gonna come. The hard times are gonna come. So when we can create the most positive experience, we'll be able to better navigate those things and enjoy the journey along along the way. I hope that you have enjoyed this negative thought concept. It is really a principle that when we start applying this into our lives and recognizing our thoughts and walking back out of those negative thoughts and rewriting the narrative, it can transform our experience in life, and it can ultimately affect our actions and our outcomes, which are the things that get us where we want to be in life. So for now, enjoy your emotional declutter session. Start thinking about these things, and I will see you tomorrow for day 5. I'm sending so much love and emotional healing your way. See you tomorrow.